I should check up on us. It's been a while, and I believe that we're actually making the most of life at our end. And I believe our day is going very well, not minding the time differences. Yeah, so it's been on my very contemplation of lately what exactly is the meaning of life. Because when I turn to check what it was some 10 years ago, some 5 years ago, maybe some 20 years ago, it seems to me as though almost everything has been changing. Almost everything has changed. Checking back, maybe 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, it was quite possible for our parents of those days to easily look at a child and then foretell what the destiny of that child would look like. It was quite easy for a father to look at the palms of the son or the child and then accurate precision with the precision of a master could easily detect what life would be for that child. But looking back in our days, sometimes I ask myself, what exactly have changed? Those days, our parents, all they need to do is to just look at the child, look at the behavior of the child, look at certain features, and give you one or two instructions, and on you go with your life. It seems to be it was more easier to define what life would be, what life should be, and what life is in the past as compared to the present. Hence, the need for this discussion. To me, it seems as though our parents of those days, there is a mystery they seems to understand perfectly, better than what we do at the moment. Because how can you explain to me, looking at a child's palm, looking at a child's character, looking at the future of the child, and you could, with precision as of a surgeon, with precision as of a master, you could tell what life would be for that child. So I tend to ponder over this for as long as it has been. Also, growing up, so many persons have been on the quest for the meaning of life. Thousands will tell you, do this, do that, and you would find the meaning of your life. Hopefully, for me, I was able to, under mentorship or tutelage of persons who have been at least decades of years ahead of me, and I've been able to define certain things that would make for satisfaction and fulfillment, without which, not minding anything you feel you must have achieved, it is not a fulfilling life. The need to impact, the need to grow, the need to feel loved and wanted, the need to be desired, the need that life counts for you, the need that you matter, had been things at the pinnacle of one's life that we had to look back and say, yes, I came, I saw, and I conquer. But what exactly can be those keys that when a child from infantile stage could look at, could follow through, and then would decide that for sure, I am sure going to discover my purpose for life? What are those things? What exactly is the meaning of life? This minute you are there, next minute you are not. This minute we are celebrating, next minute another news. This very minute, everyone is joyful. Things goes as all rosy. Next minute, nobody can tell what exactly things are turning out to be. A couple of persons have not had reasons to really place their hands and say, at least for this year, if I don't achieve anything, this one alone would be something I'll be satisfied with, if only I can achieve it. A couple of persons out there will be like, what exactly did I come to this earth to do? There's several desperations in the heart of a growing child. Who to become? Where I am headed? Where are we end? Who will be with me towards my end? Am I really living the life that I wish to? Am I really living as I would want to? Are things really going as I would desire? These desperations have made many venture into journeys of no return. These desperations have made many keep companies they would live to regret. These desperations have made many embark on journeys that when they look back to them, they regretted ever starting the journey. This desperation have kept indelible marks for some persons, have left scars for other persons, have left wounds that may never heal. These desperations have caused many to go into attitude they would ever live to regret. I check back in recent time, looking at what people are really going through, especially with the nature of profession I happen to find myself, looking at the pains people pass through, looking at what people go through. Many persons are actually suffering in silence. Many persons keep a smiling front, but deep inside, it seems not to be what it is. And on approaching closer, sometimes one will want to ask, are things really going as planned? Are things really going as one would wish to? And maybe some may want to open up, some may never wish to. Some would want to keep to themselves, and a lot just go through their mind. And there are certain sets where they wish to maybe just go to bed, never wake up again. Because of the journeys of life that they have embarked on, that have cost them what they find themselves, where they find themselves as of the moment. So many persons felt that life was all about enjoyment. So many persons got different definitions about life, that life was all about making monies. Some persons feel that life is all about getting married. Some persons feel acquiring wealth, properties, is what the true definition of fulfillment and satisfaction really is. With all of this definition, it actually shows why so many persons are into the pains, the sufferings, the regrets they find themselves. And on today's live stream, we want to see how to give clarity to certain things. Life itself by the master. One of those days I was going through the scripture and then I saw a verse that says, to the God Okay, the temple to the unknown God. The temple to the unknown God. That means this set of persons believed that indeed there is an external force, external person, there is an external factor that shifts beyond space, controls the affairs within the earth. That means they have looked at events, there are events that cannot be explained with the lenses of the ordinary eye. There seems to be a force out there that seems to control how things goes, right? So the earth itself, it's not a place of perfect solution. The earth itself is not a place of perfect solution. Thank you everyone for connecting. I'm so grateful. Thank you for the thumbs up. I really appreciate every one of us, okay? Thank you so much. So there seems to be several or diverse form of challenges ranging from the need to look for solutions, ranging from the need for who to actually carry out those solutions, all right? A couple of these challenges have been there. So the earth itself is not a perfect sphere, it's not a perfect place. And then humans, I tend to look at humans as that factor, that external factor that will be sent as the will or the wish of the master to fix certain things, right? That immediately means that for every person that is sent food to the earth, did not just come as a wish of themselves, but as a wish of a superior power, the wish of a superior power for a deliberate or for a definite aspect to procure to provide solution to something challenging on this sphere, right? So the master out there have seen a challenge, and then in his attempt to provide solution, he will send someone now which the phases goes from childhood up until adulthood, all right? Now, looking at our environment, let's look at several challenges. There are challenges relating to growing up, that's the health. There are challenges relating to um, um, there are challenges relating to health. There are challenges relating to labor. There's challenges relating to security, safety, and security. There are challenges relating to things such as science and technology. All right, a couple of there are different challenges out there. There are challenges that refer to the political aspect, the legal aspects. So for everyone that comes to this sphere, to everyone that come, there's a definite, there's a precise activity. There is something that everyone that comes to this earth is actually created for, as an act of the master trying or in attempt to provide solution to those various life challenges. And so in the DNA, the life print of everyone that comes to this earth is a solution. Now, that means from infantile stage, every child comes in because there is a need to provide solution to a challenge. And that's why if you look at growing children, all right, if you look at children, every of them, their attitude, their attributes, they differs. Okay, for instance, the shape of all fishes are not precisely the same. The shape of all fishes in the sea. Let's use natural things now. They're not the same, right? But for every fish in the sea, every creature in the sea, their specificity of every component of their parts were made to suit that ecosystem. not minding the variety in their shape, which makes it almost impossible that creatures that will survive in the sea or in the water would likely survive in the land. And then, for every single creature on land, their shape, their size are directly made. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for visiting. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lucas. I extremely appreciate for having you here. So for every creature on land, they are created because of the atmosphere. Sorry, because of the ecosystem they are going to occupy. So that makes it almost impossible that whatsoever was created for land to survive on sea or in the sea. Immediately, we look at the air, the atmosphere. For every creature that were made to occupy the atmosphere, they were definitely created with that shape to accommodate and make it suitable for them to live in that particular environment. And that will directly take us to what I said earlier for the childhood. For every single person, if you look at the features of children that are growing up, they are not having the same shape, they are not having the same color, the same complexion, the same skin texture, the same intellectual capability, the same height, the same features. Because, as we earlier said, for every child that comes to the earth, there is a problem they were meant to address. For every single child that comes to the earth, there is a problem they were meant to solve. And so, because of that problem they were meant to solve, that challenge they were meant to resolve, their creation gives them that shape to adapt to that environment. So some persons wish to be Caucasians, some persons wish to be blacks, some person in the sense that some person wishes to be Africans, some persons wishes to be the white. But despite the wish, in spite of the wish, your shape, your color, your skin texture, the way you speak, the way you approach things, your character are reflections of the solution that you carry for the problem you were sent for. So that means your IQ level are created or is given to you to suit the challenge that is ahead of you. But where then do these confusions start up with? These confusions tend to start up from childhood. Because how life would be for the rest of it is dependent on the screen that you look at. Is dependent on the screen that you look at. So while growing up, the best form of learning for the child is observation. Every child learns through observation. Looking at the adult, looking at the environment, looking at how the adult approach the environment, looking at every single factor in the environment. The child is adapting to it, is learning something. So the screen the child looks at, the screen the child observes will determine what the child will grow into. So what are those various screens that alters the destiny of every child, of everyone? What are those screens? If you are following through with me, I appreciate for the thumbs up. I appreciate everyone that here. If you are following through with me, you can also drop your comments in the comment box. You can drop your opinion in the comment box, okay? So we're talking about the meaning of life. We're addressing the desperation of every child that comes to this earth. And then we're trying to give meaning to every circumstance that we find ourselves, all right? So at this point, we are saying that for every child, what alters your view, your perspective about life is dependent upon the screen that you look at whilst growing up. So let's go to the various screen that will determine the character of that child, that will determine the nature of that child, that will determine the lifestyle of that child. So what are they? One, we have the screen of culture. The screen of culture. Every child, what makes up for culture? What are those things that makes up for culture? Language, dressing, food, beliefs, dances, including music. Those are things that makes up for culture. Let's start again. What makes up for culture? Dressing, dancing, music, language, food, and every other thing you could imagine. So, for every environment a child is born into, he's observing, he's looking at the screen of the culture. How do they dress? What language do they speak? What kinds of food do they eat? What kind of music do they play? What kind of music do they pleasure? What are the meanings that they ascribe to life? And this is the major factor that alters the view of the child's capacity. Because every child is born with 100% capacity to achieve just anything. Every child is born with the capability, the capacity, the potential to achieve everything. But the first screen that alters everything is the screen of culture. Because the child is observing. What language do they speak? It has immediately start limiting them towards other languages. It have immediately placed a limitation that they selectively would approach every other language as being foreign, except for the language they grew up to learn. What food did they eat? It immediately make their system start rejecting anything that is outside the food that culture has described as being fit for consumption. That's why the feeding pattern for Africans is different from the feeding pattern of Caucasians. So that's the first screen that alters the potential of a child. Immediately, you will know that this food is not fine for me. In fact, without even eating or consuming that food, if that child unconsciously eats what is outside the culture, most times the body system reacts, and you see some person start purging, some person throw up, and so on. That's another aspect of culture that alters things. What's the next thing in culture? The type of music. Someone is outpatient. Inquiry. Oops, my beautiful family. I'll be right back. Just give me a little time, okay? I'll be right back with us. Hi, my sister. Jeez. Hi, Chefia. Thank you so much. I believe they have already gone out. Hi, Chefia. Thank you so much. So nice having you here. Thank you so much. All right, so let's see how to push on from where we stopped. So we're looking at the first screen that alters the potential, that limits, tend to put certain level of limitation on this child's ability, this child's potential, right? So we're saying the first screen is that of culture. And we talked about the language, we talked about the food. And then the next one will be the type of music, right? The type of music that the child grew up to learn. And we know that it is being said that music is the food of the soul. Music is the food of the soul. That means if the body eats material food, music then appeases and satisfies the soulical realm. And the soul is another dimension of our being. Meaning that if the material food would nourish the bodily dimension of our being, hence leading to growth, that if music is the food of the soulical realm, it is meant to nourish the soul. What is the soul? It is the emotional framework of this being. Is our emotional framework. It is our thinking framework. It is our intellectual framework. It is the path for which right or wrong is being determined. The soul is the emotional framework of everyone's being. It is the dimension of where right and good is being selected, is being made. It is that part of us that can be able to make decision. It is the intellectual part of us. So if material food are actually they actually aim at nourishing the body, it means music would aim to nourish the soulical realm, right? So meaning that food nourishes for growth. So music should nourish our soul for growth, right? Now, in music, we have the rhythms, we have the rhymes, we have the lyrics, we have the sounds. For every sound and beats, in the soulical realm, the echo words, which is the lyrics, the echo words to us. What are those messages that those beats echoes in our soul? Some words are not just neutral words the way they are. Some words that are spoken, they are encoded. They carry with them life. They carry with them power. Words carry with them life. They can transform. They can deform. They can motivate. They can cause despair. They can cause, no wonder, there is a way someone will speak with you and immediately your emotion will change towards anger or towards sadness, towards joy or towards satisfaction, towards calmness or towards desperation, towards anxiety or towards happiness. So, for every words that the soul consumes in form of music, it sends a message to the soul. And if the soul is our intellectual dimension, it means that the kinds and patterns of musics you listen to can determine the reactions and actions within your soulical realms, within your emotional framework. So there are certain music you will listen to, it gets you all emotional towards sadness. It gets you all emotional towards elation or happiness. It gets you all emotional towards tearing. So if we say culture, one of the elements of culture is music. What kind of musics do this culture have? It means someone say, how do languages or how do informations, how do culture transmit from one generation to the other? And we'll mention through communication, we'll mention through musics and so on. So it means that if the perspective of that culture is limited towards servitude, and the kinds of music they will sing presents them as being slaves, and this immediately would mean that the musics that culture carries can either make you have the giant mindset or the slave mindset. The kinds of musics embedded in our culture because of the messages that are underneath the musics. Because of the messages. So if the culture does not have that mindset of leadership, that mindset of being capable to face challenges, it means the musics, which is a channel for which cultures are being transmitted through generations, it will rather capture that same mindset of the culture. So for every music of any culture at all you come from, it carries the mindset of your culture. So that invariably means that if your culture does not reflect a, a mindset that is towards growth, if it is a mindset that is towards wickedness, your life and every other actions will tilt towards that direction. So that's one screen again in culture that limits the potential of a child. What again? Perspective towards life, definition of life. The way the culture sees life to be. Do they see life to be, for instance, someone will say, you either see the cup as being half filled or as being half empty. So if you grow up with the mindset that the cup is half empty, it means you are pessimistic. You see life from the negative point of view. But if you see life as being the cup that is half filled, it means you're optimistic and you see life from the positive angle. So culture limits our mind. Culture limits our mind. So other factors that would limit the potential of this growing child. The next is environment. What environment do that child grow out from? What environment is that child coming from? Someone will say, you don't know my story. You don't know where I am coming from. Someone also say, if you know where you are coming from, you will know where you are going to. Someone say, what killed the father, if the child is not careful, might fall for the same trap. Because there is a strong connection with what life would be for you and what life was for those that were in the environment you grew up from. So that's another aspect that should be checked. What makes up for environment? The people around you, the actions of the people around you, the other animate factors around you. So the environment you grow up from. That's why you see someone that grew up from a home that is neat, a home that is tidy. If you go to his house, he will reflect the same mindset. The mindset will reflect in his environment. If you grow up from a child, sorry, any issue? Sorry for the break in communication, okay? So let's push on from there. So we're saying that the environment would determine if the potential of this child will be limited. And then we're looking at what makes up for those environment. We say the actions of people around him, and they all form the mindset of this child, of which I say the family you come from. If you grow up from a family where they bully, the father will beat the mother or the mother beats the father. Let's say for the one where the father beats the mother, the child will grow up with that mindset. If it's a male, that female are punching bags, while the female will see themselves as objects to be beaten. And so no matter where, even at the point where they need to take a move, because they grew up as seeing that as being normal, they still believe that it is normal to stay in a toxic family, a toxic relationship, a toxic marriage. Because the environment you grew up from are things that makes up your mindset. So when you grow up from a family that is challenging, that is optimistic, that always want to push, that always want to grow, they are dissatisfied with being at the same level always and every time. What happens then? You see that child that is not always satisfied with being at the same level every now and then. You see the child pushing. This moment he has backed this qualification. This moment he has learned this skill. This moment he's growing here. This moment this award here. Because of the family he came from, the environment he came from. He came from an environment that appreciates and embraces challenges, that appreciates and embraces growth. But if you come from a family that criticizes almost everything, that sees everything as an obstacle, the child will procrastinate. Result of procrastination, blame things or people for his or her failure. Will blame things or people for his or her failure. Because he grew up from that environment that believed that almost everything is against him or her. So the environment you grow up from, they make up for your mindset. And the mindset you build up to determine the type of limitation and the areas for which you'll be limited. The mindset you grow up with determines the definition of life for you. So that's another screen that alters the true meaning of life, the purpose, the destiny of every child. So because we say that every child that grew up, they are looking at the screen, they learn by observation. And that observation is looking at a screen. I will pick the first screen, the screen of culture. For those that were not here from the beginning, you can as well check the rebroadcast of this very live stream. We have looked at the environment. The third one we want to consider is the education and exposure. Educational exposure of this child. So, the level of education of everyone will determine the definition of life. Okay, thank you. So, for someone who finishes primary school or someone who finishes secondary school, their view towards life are actually different and their possibilities are different, because that level of education for secondary school have exposed, have strained, have stretched the mindset of that child. It has stretched the mindset of that child beyond what someone that finishes primary school have been exposed to. Likewise, someone who has finished tertiary institution, likewise someone who is or who is currently, let me say, who is currently a professor, his view towards life is different from someone who is in primary school because of the stretch of the mind, the exposure to different challenges. That person views life from a different perspective. So the screen of education and exposure would place certain level of limitation towards the meaning of life to us, towards what we were meant to do, towards how we should grow, what we should become. Your level of education would be another factor that will limit you. For every educational growth, every educational level, growth in your educational level, it places certain level of limitations to you. Because as you grow up from your crude stage, you find out that things that were mountains to you were actually hills. As you keep growing up the ladder, you find out that things that were hills were actually plain grounds till they were valleys. So, your definitions of life, of who you are, your true self, who you should become, where life should lead for you, is altered by your level of educational exposure. What's another factor that then alters, another screen that alters the mindset of a growing child? The socioeconomic status the child is born into. I once have a governor who gave birth to his first daughter whilst he was a governor. And then the child was 8 years when he was handing over on his second tenure, because from Nigeria, which happens to be in the western part of Africa where I hail from, the political tenure of every leader is 2 terms, right? Especially for most major or for major offices. Now, the man has completed his 2 tenure as a governor. It's about handing over. A child, it looks like a different life. It looks like what does it really look like? Maybe the child, from my own perspective, the child felt like my dad is always and will always remain a governor. Just waking up. So on handing over, I said, Daddy, don't hand over. We can remember another world-class leader, Obama, whose children grew up in family of affluence. So the socioeconomic status of your parents or the family for which you are born into will alter your mindset towards life, either for the positive dimension or towards the negative dimension. There are certain illnesses that people in the rural setting, people in villages, people in the countryside would ascribe to being spiritual, whereas people from the GRAs, people from affluent homes, will see as medical condition. So that is not just to the health alone, to every other aspect of life. The socioeconomic class for which you are born into will determine your possibilities, will determine how you view life, the meaning of life to you. Those who are born to home of affluence, where they can get what they want, when they want it, where and how they want it, they view life as being a tool they control. Those who are born from wretched homes, from poverty-ridden homes, they view life as being masters to them, whereas they are slaves. And you ask someone, how was your day? My day, anyhow, it went well. Oh. Okay, what are your plans for the rest part of year? I don't have any plans. Anyhow, I shall push. Whatsoever life has for me, I shall push. I just hope for the good. Because they see themselves as slave for which life commands. So the socio-economic class for which you are born into from infantile stage have already given a definition for what life is, will, and should be for you. That's another screen a child looks at. What is another screen that will determine the possibilities, the limitations that is placed on a child's potential? It is called the screen of personal experience, the screen of experimentation, the screen of personal travails. For every victory you win, it leaves a message for you or with you. For every failure you sustain, it leaves a mark on you. For every pain you pass through, it leaves a mark on you. For every trial you pass through, it leaves a message that lives on with you. So your personal experiences, the journey through life, has a way of superimposing what you define life, what the philosophy of life is to you. Every personal experience to you, every pain, every suffering, every victory, every failure, they live with you a message that defines life. They live with you a message that defines your possibilities. And that's why you would see some person within them, before you even state the scope of any task, they have already seen themselves as being helpless in the middle of the task because of the story that is embedded in their lifetime. Someone who has suffered or who has been a victim of being molested by a male counterpart is already looking at every other male from the screen of being prey. They are being their predators, sorry. They see themselves as prey. Someone whom for every attempt, educational attempt, he keeps failing. He's already defining himself, his life, as being a failure. Someone for which every business venture tends to fail. He's already defining himself as being a failure in life. So your personal experience is another screen. It's another screen that determines the meaning of life for you. So as a growing up child, you are born to several screens. The screen of culture, of which you have explained earlier. The screen of your environment. The screen of your educational exposures. The screen of your personal experiences. And then, in the midst of all this screen, you're trying to pick out what exactly is the meaning of life. What exactly was I born into this world to do? What was I giving birth on this earth? There is that quest. I have seen people break down with certain mental health disorders such as anxiety because of being on the quest to search for the meaning of life. The quest for the meaning of life. To find out what exactly, why was I even born? Why didn't my parents just leave me where I was? Why is it that everything I put my hand into do not succeed? So they are in that confusion. What exactly was I even born to this world to do? So you read from one book to the other. You listen from one motivational speaker to the other. You listen from one person to the other. This adult to the other. One culture to the other. For every culture you move onto, every environment you move into, they tend to come with confusions. And it is worst where these confusions are not settled from childhood. The best time to rescue this child, to rescue this person, to rescue this future is from childhood. The child needs to, first of all, really understand what life really means, to see life as it ought to be, as it is, to see life, to be realistic about life. It have a way of eliminating certain level of confusion. Now, what's the challenge why most children struggle with this confusion? Born into families where the parents are working class. So the mother, for some cities, 4 to 8 p.m. Some cities, 8 to 5 p.m. is in the office. The children are with the nanny. Okay, let's define it this way. Let's put it this way. The nanny taking responsibility for the children. If life was to be okay, won't the nanny be at home to take care of his children, his or her children? So that's the person you are living at home to define the meaning of life through your own children. So the other parts, they are left at school. So it is from nanny to the school teacher back to the nanny. So what the perspective of the school teacher is, remember, school itself is for learning, which is another screen. Remember when we're talking about the various screen that alters the possibility, the mindset of a growing child towards the meaning and definition of life. We mentioned the educational exposure. So what is the mindset of the teacher towards life will also be embedded. So when the nanny have presented what life should be to that child, the child goes to school, go and get another definition, and then come back to the nanny, and then try every day is in the struggle to balance what my teacher told me, what the nanny told me. Unlucky for you, the nanny is not a good one. The nanny have traits that will harm the future of your child. Unlucky for you, the nanny have attributes that will negatively impact on the child. So these are where destinies are wounded. Infantile stage. These are where futures who were supposed to be brighter are darkened. So what if the teacher on the other end is not well exposed? That's why we have leaders that are half-baked. What if the teacher grew up from the same screens that altered the possibility, the optimistic parts of life, that sees life? What if the teacher is coming from society that sees himself as being helpless towards life? So he now impacts the same mindset on the child. And when the parents come back, they are all tired and exhausted of how you hope school went well and everything, slip off. Some may not even have the time. In the morning, before the children will even wake up, they're off for work. So the best time for your children to get definitions of life, clarity towards a lot of things, it is at the infantile stage. It is while they are still growing up. Once they grow into adulthood, 80%, 70 to 80% of those confusions live on with them. Hence, it is passed on from generation to generation. So, what other thing beside this would hinder this growth? A child who never had an adult that have proper perspective, have adequate time to lecture him or her. This is what life should be. This is how you should approach this circumstance. There will be alterations. Those days, we have this lifestyle, especially in the African setting, called the moonlight tales. The moonlight tales, where children, towards the cool hours of the day, late evenings, they sit together in cliques. They sit together. So you have one man, they live in, it's called a case system. One man having multiple wives, and then in a very big environment, and then at that moonlight tales, the entire family will gather in one circle, and then they turn in details to tell the children, these are my experiences. These are things that I learned from my failures. These are things that I learned from each of my successes. So, have we seen where we missed it? These are points where we missed it. Because children tends to grow up where there are love, where there is attention, where there is passion and empathy towards them, where there is emotional connectedness. Whosoever and whatsoever the emotions of anyone is tied to, it is that thing that will determine the course of life for that person. So now imagine where it is the growing child. So, where these children were already growing up under this tutelage, it makes the definition of life, it makes the perspective towards life to be a fruitful one, a better and a smooth one. So then, let's take us a bit aback. We say that for every child that comes to this world, there was a challenge in their DNA for which they were meant to provide solution. So, if they were already coming into the earth, into this world, with solutions in their womb, and then all these screens alter everything, you now see that the solutions they were meant to provide would not even see the daylight. So then, what are the remedies to it? How do we rescue? How do we rescue the destiny of our growing child? How do we save our future? How do we get the true meaning of life? How do we grow up defining life as it should be, quite on time, very early enough? What is life? Is life just all about eating, sleeping, wake up? Is life all about dress well, take your bath, go to wherever, return back, sleep, the circle continues? What is life? Some people see life as a journey, which is a reflection of the screens they grew up from. Some people see life as a battle, a reflection of the screens they look at. Some people see life as a means to an end. Some people see life as a story, that a lot happens in between the chapters of that story. Some people see life as an opportunity. What exactly is life? You know, I mentioned most of those screens. I deliberately did not mention one. Let's look at another screen that alters. Thank you so much for the thumbs up. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm so grateful for having us here. We're talking about the definition of life, the meaning of life, discovering our potentials, clearing up the confusions that beclouds our mindset towards the meaning of life. That's the centrality of our discussion. Okay. So, what is that screen? The next screen is the screen of social media. There is one wall most persons have not discovered. There is one wall people are yet to wake up. People are yet to discover. It is the screen of social media. Social media is a different wall all along. It is a wall where science, leaders, mentors, people out there have tried to control, but there is no perfect control. For instance, Google has certain features that should separate or classify different informations. Okay, these ones are for children. For instance, let's go for the YouTube. It has the one for the kids, it has the ones for the adult. Google has certain features, different medias. People are trying to regulate the media so that the child will not be exposed to informations that were supposed to be for later part of life quite early enough. But do they really control? So this media, the social media, is a different wall of its own. It is a wall where different lifestyles are formed. There are people whom, when they go to social media, what drives their pleasure, what drives their attention is gangsterism. What drives their pleasure is health, technology, lifestyles and fashions, motivations, desperations, activism, politics, animals, including nature. So they are different. This is a world that have different dimensions. And with anyone the child attention is glued to, it will reflect. So our life is like a mop that mops up everything our eyes focuses on, our mind focuses on. Our eye is a door to our mind. So anything our eyes focuses on, it glues our mind and attention to it. So if the child is looking at the positive side, it would reflect on his definition of life. Hence, a child growing up from infancy, your attitude towards that child should be those that define the true meaning of life. Because children are not just learning through words, they're learning through observation. What are your actions? Do they collaborate with your words? So if you tell your child, don't go to that place, and they're always finding you at the same place that you tell them not to go, what do you expect? They expect that you are lying to them, because for the fact that you are in that place, it means that nothing exactly is wrong there. So why should you limit them? Children are experimental in nature. If you say, don't do a thing, and they are seeing you doing the same thing, what do you expect of them? You are deceiving them. They are born with innate wisdom that is brought up through curiosity. The curiosity to find out, why are you doing what you tell them not to do? Why are they finding you in places you say they should not go? Why are they hearing what you say they should not say? Why are they seeing you dress in ways you are telling them not to dress? So children are have this curiosity in them to look for meanings. You are telling them, don't beat your wife, but they are seeing you beat their mother. You are telling them, love your brother, but they are seeing you having hate for your own siblings. And you expect that they'll all hook, blind, and sinker. They'll just, everything you have told them, swallow it up, move on with life. No. Every of your action is defining life to them. Every of your words is defining life to them. Your silence is defining life to them. They are looking at the way you are approaching situations. They are looking at the way, every circumstance, someone offended you. How did you approach that situation? So the child will say, oh, if I'm faced with this similar situation, that means I should respond in this way. But my daddy used to do this. But my mommy used to act this way. But my daddy used to say this. But my uncle used to do this. So it's defining their definitions. It's giving a definitions to compartment, facets of life. Life is an opportunity. So it should not be wasted. We can take that definition for today. Life is an opportunity, and so it should not be wasted. Life is an opportunity, and so it should not be wasted. Why is life an opportunity? Because we have in our womb solutions to deliver before we leave this scene. Life, someone says, is a stage. You come to act. You are the major actor. You are the actor on the stage. People are looking at you. Most persons tend to look at others. They pay too much attention on other persons and they lose themselves. They lose themselves. They forget that they are actually actors on stage. And so the definition of life to them, it is order-based, not themselves. Order-based. So life is an opportunity. You are on the stage. Act. When the scenes are over, leave the stage. You have solutions. There are families that need to be fixed. Certain children that are born to different homes carry in their womb solutions for those homes. Life is an opportunity. Life is an opportunity. We are born with solutions in our wombs. Certain marriages have cracks and faults that needs to be fixed. There are children that are born to fix those cracks. I've heard parents say, I would have left your dad. I would have left this marriage if not for these children. In the society, you see different defaults, different flaws, different issues. The issues with leadership. So there's a child to fix the problem of leadership. Issues with constructions. So you give an architect a job to build a house for you, to design a house for you. You give the engineer, and 10 years down the lane, the house collapses. Architectural issues, engineering issues. There's a child that carries that solution. Societies are suffering with insecurity. The insecurity started as a family issue before it became a societal issue. There's a child to fix that issue. He's born with that solution in his or her womb. So you are not empty. You are not a slave to life. Your life is not meaningless. Your life is not meaningless at all. You carry in your womb a solution. You carry in your womb a solution. There is a solution only you can fix. There is a challenge only you can resolve. There are certain circumstances only you can be appreciated. Don't waste the life you have. Don't waste that opportunity. There is a solution deep inside of you. How do you discover it? How did we start? We talk about the shape of every person, the complexion, the colors, and everything. It reflects the type of solution it came to provide. So when you see yourself, things, you have this part of life that things are not always going as planned. It reflects that you were created for that kind of life, to provide solution for that kind of life. Okay, let me explain what that means, all right? Let me explain what that means. Imagine someone coming to conduct surgery on another person, and then the person have never attended a medical school. That would be disastrous, right? Yes. So just like that doctor, that physician that needs to go through the phases of the medical school, it is the same thing with this child. That's your experience that is a bitter one. That's your challenge that is a bitter one. That pain you are going through is the lecture room of life to train you, because you were created for that type of challenge. Because inside your womb, that type of solution is buried inside of you. Okay, let's go again. All right. I call someone who has never handled an electrical work to address an issue in a transformer. Imagine what type of disaster that would be. So that means for that person to fix it very well, he must have been exposed to electrical trainings, paraventure, electrical engineering through school, through apprenticeship. So if a certain part of your life is a challenge to you, is you are always failing in that side of life, it's showing you that you are created for that type of problem. So that failures reflect the school you are going through. So a child will not walk in one day. That child will rise, he will fall, he will crawl. While crawling, you get to a stage, you try. Even the first day you start crawling, it's not easy. And then when you crawl up, stand up, try to stand up, you will fall. Try to stand up, you will fall. Then one day, if that child never gives up, you will start walking very well. So what does it reflect? It reflects that as you keep failing, just like that child trying to walk, you are created for that type of challenge. You only keep persevering until one day, like that child, you'll be walking through. It will be a walkover for you. Now, what does that mean? That immediately means that if you were to be giving someone say, tell me about yourself. If you find out that the first few minutes of that discussion, that conversation, tell me about yourself, you will start from your education, the environment you grew up from. You tell us about the type of work you do. Sometimes later, you start telling us the things you love, the places you would have loved to visit, your ordeals and everything. It is what makes the story sweet. So, for you to fix any problem, there are certain level of exposure in that type of problem you must have. If you must fix a problem, you must have a story of that type of problem. So it is you are giving, you are profiling the solution from a depth of story that no one is seeing today. So if I am supposed to advise someone about relationship, if my advice must be authentic, if my advice must be productive, I should have had series of emotional and relationship failures, of which I now mastered the act of relationship. And then when I'm profiling solution, I am now digging from the archives of the pains I had in relationship. And I'm now telling you, if you do this, the relationship will not last. If you do this, the relationship would grow. Does that make sense now? So, if someone is suffering from toothache, I'm supposed to profile solution. My solution will be as perfect as if I have ever had toothache or undergone